Welcome to Angel to Exit, the Seedling. Today we're going to talk about how real startup businesses at the very early stages engage with their operations and eventually get to angel funding. I'm Fred Cohen, your host. Generally, a business starts with an idea. Might be any idea. I'll just give you a simple process for creating business ideas. Look around you, pick any object you see, for example, a closet with a sliding door with a mirror. These are fairly common. So you'd think that, so what, I just saw something and who cares? And that's right to most people, but if you're looking for ideas, you could be finding something that's different or better for that mirror, and that becomes the potential for a business. For example, a door and a mirror could slide automatically with remote control. You push a button to do it. You could have a magnifying mirror embedded in the larger mirror. You could have a light to light up the mirror, and there are backlit mirrors nowadays, fairly common. You could power them by solar power embedded in the mirror, so it picks up the energy to light itself from the ambient light in the room, so it doesn't require any electrical power source in order to have a lit mirror. Respond to voice commands and make you look thinner or fatter, and you can actually do this by changing the shape of the mirror and have a little mechanism in there. You could make it a shatterproof material. Roll the mirror up for closet access, so the mirror rolls out of the way as if it was a door. The list goes on and on. There's no end to the ideas you can have. So the idea is, you need to associate that with the business of making doors. So you need to make doors, manufacture them. You need to design them. Might design it here, manufacture it in China. We need to sell the doors. So maybe you'll sell them through Sharper Image or high-end boutique or home accoutrement stores. And we'll make a fortune. Hey, wow, this is a great idea. All right, I'm ready. Let's go into that business. So it turns out it's pretty easy to come up with lots of ideas like this. And for fun, I want you to do 5 business ideas right now. So get ready to pause this video. Take no more than 60 seconds each and write down the same sort of information you saw in the last slide. Okay, so get ready to pause the recording because I'm going to reveal additional information. So ready, set, pause the recording. Oh, you didn't pause it. Oh, you did? Okay, well, let's start up again then. Here we go. Continuing on. Now that you have a list of ideas, what do you do with them? The first step I take is the process of elimination. Turns out most ideas aren't that good, or at least they're not well suited to me. So somebody's probably already in the sliding door with mirror business and has made variations on these doors, and they've probably tried various things that I've listed. And somebody could make a business like this, but it's not going to be me. So what you want to do is eliminate the ones you don't really want. If you don't have a passion for it, you're not going to, survive the process of starting a business and all the time and effort that it takes to make it successful. Which then is, keep generating more until you come across a really good one that's good for you. I mean, all these ideas could be great, and there are lots of different products that involve sliding doors with mirrors. So obviously, people are manufacturing them and making money with them, but they may not be suited to you. The second step I take is to detail them all further. So I use a standard form and I answer my standard questions. And the basic questions, first one is, what's the business name? You make a nickname for internal use. So, you call it, mirror slide, or who cares what you call it, see myself, or I look thin, whatever you want to call it. And you create an elevator pitch, a simple sentence. We make high-tech mirrors for home and office. It's got to be short, something you can explain to somebody in a second or two so that they say, oh, now I know what you do. Elevator speech, literally, you're in an elevator, somebody says, oh, hi, so what do you do? Well, we make high-tech mirrors for homes and offices. Well, if they're interested, they'll ask more, and if they're not, that's the end of that conversation. There's a more complex sentence you always want to develop. Our high-tech mirrors provide a fun and functional user-controlled reflective surface that can make you look short, tall, thin, fat, focus on your face for close-ups, and many other similar things. So that's more of a pitch. It's more thorough in describing what they do. So if somebody asks, you can go into that, and you can be pitchy or not. You can sort of be factual. I'm just giving it to you as a pitch because it's fun to do that. And then you do a paragraph, and you can write this one. It's not really the business for me, so I'm not writing the paragraph. I've now gone beyond the point I'm willing to do for the mirror business. So I use a standard form to answer my standard questions. And the standard questions about how the business works is who sells what to whom and how. I really want to know this. High school students, sell subscriptions for money for their football team, or who are they selling it to? They're selling it to their moms and dads and people in the neighborhood. And how do they do it? Door to door. Okay. Who knows what to deliver, what's sold? Okay, so if I'm selling magazines, somebody has to make the magazines. Somebody has to ship them, whatever that process is. And then, a good question is, why is this a good thing? Why is this something we actually want to do? And there are good reasons for people to buy interesting magazines that they like, for example, and there might be good reasons for people to buy mirrors. But it's a matter of you wanting to do something that makes you feel good, but also that's a successful business. Why would you pick this over other things? What are the barriers to entry for others? So great, I have a business and I'm making, specialized mirrors sold by high school students going from door to door in their neighborhoods to help them go to football games or swim meets or whatever, the Olympics. What are the barriers to entries, for others? Well, gee, if I don't have intellectual property rights, if I don't have, patents or a great name in the mirror business or good connections so that nobody else can sell into my field or whatever it is, then it's much harder to be successful. It just becomes a race, and the race is funded by money. And if I'm in the mirror business, there are lots of other people with more money than me in the mirror business. Then, of course, what will it cost? What other resources do we need? People, things, systems. To make these high-tech mirrors, we need, $100 million micro manufacturing plant. Well, that probably puts me out of the game. What will the profits be? 10 cents a mirror. How many are you selling? A million mirrors. That's $100,000. That's not very much money for however long it's going to take to sell a million mirrors. It's $100 each. A million mirrors, $100 million. Bingo. Now we're talking. What's the cash flow? Right? So cash flow is a big problem. Lots of people know how to make an enormous profit once they get to the first 250,000 users. But if it takes $40,000 to get to those users, it might be a problem. What's the maximum potential? And when and how does the market saturate? When does it run out? And what's the exit strategy? Recall that if you're going to invest as an angel or any other kind of investor, you want to get your money out. So you have to be able to leave somehow. Another issue, of course, is marketing and markets. What is the marketing approach? How are you going to sell this thing? There's something called a SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, that's commonly done to give you a sense of this, and I always fill this form out for a new business. What's the market? Is it a new or existing product or service, and is it a new or existing market? And what are the market conditions? Is there competition? Is there a technology issue in the market? Are the material and labor available? Is the business climate favorable or unfavorable to this sort of thing? What's the legal and regulatory climate? Son of a gun, mirrors were just illegalized worldwide. Well, man, the mirror business is not the business to be in. Marketing mix. This is about product and service and price and where you place it and how you promote it. And that's, what you do is identify a set of niches where you can put your product or service, what the price is, how you're going to sell it, how you're going to promote it in each niche. And you'll find out that some niches are better than others, maybe only in the short run or the long run. And so you have to pick the niche that's going to work, especially when you're starting up, because you're not big enough to hit all the niches. So you have to find the ideal place for you to go that meets all the other conditions. And then there's the maturity model that has to do with, is it a mature market or an immature market? Is it large or high growth or large or high share of the market? And the path goes, from wildcat, which is, low share, high growth, to star, which is high share, high growth, to cash cow, which is, high share and low growth, to dog, which is low share and low growth. In other words, it's the end. And businesses tend to move through these cycles. So you need to figure out, how you're going to get from here to there, and you want to sell when you're a star or when you're between wildcat and star. Once it's a cash cow, it's not a bad thing to sell, but it's really tougher to sell because nobody's going to have explosive growth out of it. They're not going to build some big business. It's sort of just a continuity. And when it's a dog, then if you can sell it, then you're good at selling ice cream to Eskimos, I guess, although it's not that hard to do it. Finances. A financial chart showing what the financials will look like over time. It should be very clear and show the cash flow, how much money you need and when. It should show your assumptions about sales and costs and so forth. And it should show the hockey stick that this pattern of growth that you're going slowly better and better, and then you hit a knee point and it accelerates, and and when that happens and how it happens and why it happens are things you need to explain to yourself and to me, right? If I'm going to start up a business, I need to explain it to me so that I can decide whether it's worth spending the 2 months or 5 years getting to that hockey stick and how high it goes, how quickly, and so forth. And then you need some sort of a summary of the strategic value, just why this is a better way to spend available resources than alternatives. And part of the issue for me is I have lots of opportunities, as does everybody. If you think about it, you might think you have no opportunities, but you have an unlimited number of opportunities. So the question is, which is the set of opportunities you want to be involved in at any given time? How much time is it going to take? How much value is it going to bring you personally or financially for the time you put in? And you only get so much time in your life, so you don't get to pick them all. So this is, about risk and reward of the activity, and you can compare it to alternatives. The risk, of course, the worst case is it just completely fails and you get nothing out of it and you are miserable and lose all your money. And the reward better justify that risk. And then there's some strategic value that might compensate for or enhance the risk-reward balance. For example, the synergistic effects with other activities or positions. Most people that write books, you can't make much money writing a book. Maybe Grisham can, but most other people cannot. So, people like me, I've written books on cybersecurity and books on digital forensics, and I don't write them to get rich writing the book. I write them because I'm interested. I think it's a valuable resource to provide, and it builds my reputation in the space, and people, get to evaluate what I have to say. And I use it for reference purposes, and it gets peer reviewed. So I use it, ultimately sometimes in court to say, look, this is the state of the art. I've reviewed the literature, and other people are using this in their classes. So that must mean that it has some, value. It's met some limited standard of the quality of the value of the results. And I do this, I fill out this for every endeavor I undergo before applying substantial resources to it. And that's sort of a fundamental decision I make and you should make, and most good participants make. I have options, so I do comparisons. I sort activities by best return on time and money. And I have limited bandwidth, and that provides a cutoff point, so I can only do so many things. Once I decide, of course, it's off to the races. You put only the necessary things in place to move it to the next step. I have a sort of a business that builds startups. I do a couple every year, and I'm increasingly getting involved with a dozen new startups a year. So there are certain resources that they need or that I need to do that. And I built up that set of resources, so I have them available for myself. And I can very efficiently do the first few steps of starting up that business and get it from A to B very quickly. Maybe it has to get all the way to G to be successful, but it's much less expensive and more efficient to move it forward using the resources I know, the people I know, the things that I have at my fingertips and so forth. I don't wait to move forward. A lot of people want to get perfect, and there's a saying, perfect is the enemy of good enough. I'm a perfectionist in some way. In some of the things I do, I want to know all the answers, but I also recognize that that's not the most successful path in business in almost all cases. Good enough, however, is necessary. If you're not good enough to get the job done, you're going to have a product or a service that fails in the marketplace. So it has to be good enough to be reasonably marketable and valuable to your customers. You need to bring value to the people that give you money in order for them to want to give you money. You make all the moves you can, but not until it's their time. So you always want to preserve the precious resources, which are your time, the time of others, the goodwill that you have, the work that other people are doing for you, their cooperation, of course, money, and other such things. And then to the extent that you can share infrastructure you don't need, you should. So there's a lot of free or cheap technology that can be stopped and started at any time. A website, you can buy a year of a website for $15 or $20. Maybe it's $30 if it doesn't have much information on it. And for $30 a month, man, you can get an enormous website with lots and lots of storage and databases and everything. Credit card processing, you take a percentage hit. So I use a credit card processing service that's basically a couple $100 to get started, and you can collect credit cards over the internet or whatever, and they take a couple percent. at a minimum of $1 or $2 per transaction, and it's very easy and simple, and I don't have to spend my time building a special credit card processing capability. Email, time management, invoices, payables, cash flow, bookkeeping, and so forth. They're all plug-in if you need a good bookkeeper. I work with a bookkeeper and a CPA that's my accountant, and she does startups and small businesses, and she's very good at it. And if you're IBM, you're not her customer, but if you're a startup, she's perfect. So I help by sharing these resources, and they help by sharing opportunities with me. And you should, spend only what you have to on things that are critical to your success, right? So I mentioned I use standard startups, but don't go too cheap. Remember, image is an important thing about success. An example is Vistaprint is great for business cards and related material, posters and such. I think they have like a $9.90 sale right now for 500 business cards, color, one-sided, standard, shipped to you within 4 or 5 days. You go online and put the images up, and you might do something amazingly fancy for your business cards, but man, if you need a business card, you can just get it within a couple of days without batting an eye by going to things, services like this. You get some success, in building whatever you're going to build, but nothing really happens till someone sells something. This is a famous quote, but I don't remember who originally said it. You need to be able to fulfill whatever you sell. Okay, so you can go out and sell and start to get orders, but if you can't fulfill it, used to be you could go to jail. Now, people just disdain you or say bad things about you. Many businesses don't need, to do very much before they sell something, right? So a lot of modern businesses are raced to build audience, and they build audience, they build share at a loss. The money comes later from advertising, upsells, fees, and so forth. But the business model, that's what rules this thing. So figuring out what you need is a function of how your business is going to work. So if your business model says, I'm going to build this audience and this share, and I'm going to put out this much money to do it, and then I'm going to monetize it with advertising, you better know what advertising can get you. You better know how much you can charge. You really have to test this stuff out, because a little mistake, a couple % mistake, can turn a multi-million-dollar win into a multi-million-dollar loss or bankruptcy. So you need to find goals and time frames for meeting them. If it takes too long and you have a high burn rate, that is, you're spending money at too fast a rate, you'll fail. So you need to understand when to meet goals, and if you don't meet a goal in time, you need to know you're coming up on that time, and if you're not meeting it, you best meet it. If you don't, you could be in big trouble. And so you better adapt before you fail instead of adapting afterwards. And then you need to execute on a plan, but there's a great saying, no plan survives contact with the enemy. So you need to adapt the plan with time and update the rest of the context of that plan and everything else I've been talking about. There's another saying, it's called fail fast, and I'm a big fan of having businesses that if it's not going to succeed, I want to learn it soon. And ideally, I learn it in that idea stage before I fill out that form, right? Because the worst thing that you can ever do is spend 2 or 3 years of your life and have a failure. And it just hurts. And worse yet, you spend 10 years and have a failure and don't make enough money along the way and lose your home and your family and so forth. So you really want to figure out the key thing that's going to make it fail, and fail fast if you're going to fail, for less money and less time, and don't drag it out. Find the fatal flaws as soon as you can and either cure them or stop, get out. And then the other thing, of course, is when and as you succeed, when you get what looks like a winner, you need to identify what you need to accelerate, how far and how fast. So you keep updating your spreadsheets and your planning documents. And some people, you keep moving on and you get lots of urgent things. Oh, you have to do this, you have to do that, and so forth. And you end up working until midnight and getting up at 4 a.m. And it's really important that you keep understanding what's important to success and placing that at a higher priority than what's urgent some of the time. Not all the time, urgency does exist, but you can very often figure out, how to do the important things, and the urgent things become less urgent. If you need funds, resources, or help to succeed, usually you start with friends and families. You can go to angels as a likely next step. But you want friends and family, people that you trust and believe in and have known for some time, to be involved along the way. Individual angels may be very helpful for seedlings. I know Angel to Exit, of course, provides well, lots of assistance in exchange for ownership as opposed to for cash, because seedlings don't have much cash. So it's a trade-off, and it's good for the investor because they have a higher return on their effort than they would otherwise get. But it's of course high risk, so most of them fail because that's how business is. And if occasionally angel groups will also fund seedlings. Their incubators can help. There are lots of local small funds around. If you look, local colleges and universities very often help. They have programs for seedlings. They'll provide some resources. There are contests and so forth. And then there are interns and other augmentation from educational venues are potentially available, as well as other folks out there. There are, if you're in nonprofits, there are people that specialize in that. There are retired business people that just like to do this and help other businesses succeed. When the time comes for angels, of course, you're going to need to be ready for them. So that's detailed in the other Angel to Exit presentations. So I just want to thank you for your time, express my appreciation, and we'd be happy, obviously, to interact with you. Please come and visit us and have a great, successful business career.